Top of the hour, welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Ted Rollins, glad to have you along with us on this Friday. The courtroom battle between Johnny Depp and his ex-wife Amber Heard is on pause this morning. Amber Heard will return to the witness stand a week from Monday. This week began with Depp's legal team presenting their final witnesses and resting their case in chief. Heard's legal team then kicked off their case with a psychologist who testified that Heard suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder after her marriage to Johnny Depp due to the alleged abuse that she suffered at his hands. And then, of course, Amber Heard took the stand. Let's take this moment to look back at some of the moments that she testified to over a day and a half of testimony.
I struggle to find the words to describe how painful this is. This is the most painful and difficult thing I've ever gone through. So much. That is the love of my life. I'm looking at it in his eyes, and I don't see him anymore. I don't see him anymore. It wasn't him. It was black. I've never been so scared in my life. It was black. I couldn't see him. And my head was bashing against the back of the bar, and I couldn't breathe. Sorry. I'm sorry. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I don't know what happened next. I don't want to do this. I felt this pressure. On my pubic bone. He thought he was punching me. This came out in Ben's evidence because he didn't share it until this date.
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained. And so I recognized it. And I just looked right at him, just looked right at his face, leaned back, and headbutted me square in the nose. Just right as I stood in front of him.
Amber Heard on the stand this week after court adjourned yesterday. Both sides had they issued some dueling statements. We're going to get to those in just a bit. I want to bring in our guests. Laura Stuckert is in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. She is joining our discussion. Sarah Schmeiser still with us. She is in Madison, Wisconsin. We've got the Badger State covered this morning. Lauren, good morning. Good Friday morning to you. What's your take? We were talking about it this morning, like everybody is. How'd she do, in your opinion, over a day and a half of direct examination?
I thought Amber Heard did very well testifying. In a sense, I think she, started to bury him. Her ability to convey what had occurred with such emotion and the particular details that she is able to account for. She shifts into a first-person narrative when speaking about him. And, she set it up so that the only real way Mr. Depp is going to have a chance at success for this trial is if all of those jurors entirely think that she is 100% making all of this up. I think that's going to be difficult to do. I found her testimony very compelling and, frankly, quite believable, recognizing that it's, of course, through her subjective lens.
Sarah, do you believe all of it? And if you don't believe some of it, is that a risk that some jurors may then take the offer from Johnny Depp's team that you can't believe any of it because she is not all there?
It's a big risk, right? You have to almost go all or nothing. The Johnny Depp's team has set it up as she's lying, she's exaggerating, she's adding to these stories. She didn't say this originally, and now she's coming on and she's adding more and more detail, more and more layers. So that must all be false. I think it's a really hard, that's a difficult thing to do in a criminal defense case. It's not going to be your favorite. It does occasionally work. You can occasionally show that. Obviously, cross-examination is going to be key here to see how she holds up, to see what they can bring in to challenge the credibility, the believability of her statements. And the clear, I think she does a great job on the stand. How much can you believe that? How much can they bring in to show that you can't believe that?
Both Johnny Depp and Amber Heard's team issued statements last night after court had adjourned. They're a bit lengthy, but we're going to read them all just because you'll just listen to these. This is from Johnny Depp's team. This is after court adjourned. As Mr. Depp's counsel correctly predicted in their opening statements last month, Ms. Heard did indeed deliver the performance of her life in her direct examination. While Ms. Heard's stories have continued to grow new and convenient details, Mr. Depp's recollections have remained exactly the same throughout the 6 painful years since her first allegations were made. His truth, the truth, is the same no matter what the environment in which it is being presented. The upcoming cross-examination for Mr. Depp's team will be the most telling and will certainly highlight the many fallacies Ms. Heard has now attempted to pass off as fact throughout her convoluted testimony. That was released, and a short time later, lo and behold, Amber Heard's team, the new PR team, had something to say. As evidenced by the statement just released, Mr. Depp's defamation claim is falling apart so rapidly that his counsel are turning from prosecutor to persecutor. That same team is so panicked that they're fighting tooth and nail to prevent compelling evidence and photos from being introduced. Small wonder Mr. Depp does not have the fortitude or courage to even look at Ms. Heard at all throughout the proceedings, as he could not in the UK trial, and instead he doodles and snickers. Lauren, what do you think of those statements? I don't know if these two are ever going to get back together again.
It would be a long shot for that to occur, I think. It's a high-profile case. The people who are reading those statements are the people who are interested in this case, the fans of Mr. Depp and Mr. Heard and Hollywood. But we're in a jury trial here. So the statements given by the PR teams, I don't think are going to have a large effect on the result of this trial. Anybody, whatever, everybody's coming in who's watching this case is looking at it through their eyes, with their particular bias that they might hold as it relates to this situation. Anybody who has suffered domestic or emotional abuse, it's probably going to be more sympathetic towards Ms. Heard's story. On the other hand, anybody who's ever been wrongfully accused of anything is probably going to be more compelled to believe Mr. Depp. So while these PR statements are present because these are two famous individuals, I don't think they're going to have any magnitude as far as the jury is concerned.
Sarah, the judge admonishes the jury every time they leave the courtroom, as we see in criminal trials sometimes, and of course, criminal trials here on Court TV, jurors are sequestered. What are the odds that the jury is not going to pick up a headline on this or see something? Or, if I know that my cousin's on this jury, Mother's Day brunch, I'm going to be all over that person. This is a tough one because of the amount of coverage for these jurors to be insulated, and you throw in the carnival that is that courthouse in Virginia, people outside every day. Your thoughts on the reality of what jurors likely will be, filtering?
Yeah, the reality is I can't imagine they don't get some amount of information from outside sources. You can't pick up your phone and open up a news application or look at the news or turn on the radio without having something be said. Even if they're being pretty vigilant, not trying to read anything, how do you avoid, do you open up Twitter or not? How do you avoid seeing some of that through social media, through regular news, and just walking down the street, headlines that you might see? I think it's impossible to avoid it. So these kinds of I'm not saying the PR statements themselves, but like that could play some sort of a role. Although we don't see the jury here, my understanding is there's quite a few young men. It's a fairly young jury. I find it hard to believe that some of this isn't seeping in some way, shape, fashion, or form.
Yeah, it'll be fascinating if any jurors do talk, how much they were affected at all, or how hard it was to stay away, because I'm sure it is an hour-by-hour basis when they're not in a courthouse. Oh, I can't look at that, you know, if they're taking it seriously.